Hey everybody, this is a copy of The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. You have a slightly different copy in your packet, but you'll be okay. I am going to read through this with you, and you guys are going to read along, and then I'm going to stop at different places and help you out with it. On Monday, I may give you a quiz so that you can show me that you've listened to this and that you understand it. And then we'll do some more work with it, obviously. So here we go. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as I best could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You who so well know the nature of my soul will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitely settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. Okay, so that first paragraph has a lot of words that we don't use commonly. So unredressed is unavenged. So if I kicked you and I didn't get punished for it, then it would be unredressed. And then it says when retribution overtakes its redresser. So basically, if you were so mad that I had kicked you that it made you stop doing any work and that's all you could think about, then it would overtake you if all you could think about was getting back at me for kicking you. And so that's what Poe is saying to start this off, that you have to be calm if you're going to get back at somebody. You can't just freak out. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. So Fortunato thinks they're still cool. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared, he prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Connoisseurship in wine. See, even I make mistakes with words. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was quack. But in the manner of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. Motley is like, if you ever saw a jester, how they have like different colors and stuff. So this is a big party time. It's like Mardi Gras, basically. And that's when he saw him. So that's carnival season, basically. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts." "How?" said he. "Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible! And in the middle of the carnival?" "I have my doubts," I replied, "and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain." So right here, there's a kind of wine that apparently was hard to get. And a pipe is a measurement, like a gallon of milk. And so Montresor's like, "Hey, I finally got a bottle of this stuff. It seems like it's amazing. And you weren't around to tell me if it was any good." And Fortunato's like, "Oh, in the middle of this party, I don't think you can get this." Of course, by the way, Montresor is just baiting him, right? He's getting him to do what he wants. Because remember, he wants to get back at him. It never says in this whole story what Montresor did to Fortunato, by the way. We'll talk about that in class. Amontillado, I have my doubts. Amontillado, and I must satisfy them. Amontillado. And as you are engaged, I am on my way to Lutresi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me, Lutresi cannot tell Amontillado from Sherry. And yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go. Whither? To your vaults. My friend, no, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Lucrezi, I have no engagement. Come. Okay, so our main character is trying to get this guy down to his vaults, and he's getting the guy to do it himself. Like, he's like, oh, no, you don't want to go. I'll get this other guy to look at it. And he's like, no, I'm definitely going now. So what better way to get back at somebody than to make them ask to come to where you are so you can get back at them? My friend, no, it is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with nitre. Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon. And as for Lutresi, he cannot distinguish Sherry from Amontillado. Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, and putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a reliquaire closely about my person, I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. Check this out. Middle of a big party, Fortunato and Montresor are both wearing costumes. Pretty good setup for taking somebody and doing what you want with them. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from their scones 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. So basically they're holding, like, you've seen it in the movies, like torches in their hands, right? Because it's so dark. And of course these vaults, these catacombs are, people are buried down there, like underneath their house. They're creepy. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent, and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. The pipe, said he? It is farther on, said I, but observe the white webwork which gleams from these cavern walls. He turned toward me and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled the rheum of intoxication. Nitre, he asked at length. Nitre, I replied. How long have you had that cough? There's a coughing section here. I'm not going to read that for you. Although if I was making you guys read this in class, I would make one of you read it because it's pretty funny, but I'm not going to do it. Just imagine him coughing. My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. Look how he's calling him his friend. Even to us, he is like making us think that they're friends and stuff, but at the same time, he wants to punish him. And he has this plan. It is nothing, he said at last. Come, I said with decision, we will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy, as once I was. You see that? As once I was. You are a man to be missed. For me, it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lutresi. All right. Well, obviously, the guy's going to go down there now, because he's like, go on back. Enough, he said. The cough is a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough. Look at that foreshadowing, guys. It will not kill me. Just wait. True, true, I replied, and indeed I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily, but you should use all proper caution. A draught of this medic will defend us from the damps. Here I knocked off the neck of a bottle, which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mold. Drink, I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused and nodded to me familiarly. While his bells jingled. I drink, he said, to the buried that repose around us, and I to your long life. You guys, they're in this basement, and in the walls, there's just dead people buried. And that's where they live. They live above it, but that's just normal to them. It says it's set in Italy. I don't know when, but 1600s-ish. It's been a while. It's a long time ago. And I to your long life, right? Foreshadowing. He took again my arm and we proceeded. These vaults, he said, are extensive. The Montresors, I replied, were a great and numerous family. I forget your arms. Okay, now that's the weirdest sentence in the world, but really what he's saying is like, you guys know what a coat of arms is? If not, I'll show you in class. But like, he's like, I forget what your family history is, basically. A huge human foot, Dior, in a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent rampant whose fangs are embedded in the heel. And the motto, Nemo me impune lacet. Now you guys can look that up, but we'll talk about it. It's nobody like harms me without getting hurt. Or I have to look up the exact wording, but that's what it says. Good, he said. The wind sparkled in his eyes and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the medic. We had passed through long halls of piled skeletons with casks and puncheons intermingling into the inmost, it should say innermost, it's okay, inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by an arm above the elbow. The nitre, I said, see, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vault. We are below the river's bend. The drops of moisture trickle among the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough. It is nothing, he said, but let us go on. But first, another draft of the medic. I broke and reached him a flagon of de Grave. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. Dude keeps giving his friend more and more alcohol, so the guy keeps getting more and more drunk, so it's easier for him to hurt him. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. He laughed and threw the bottle upward with a gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. You do not comprehend, he said. Not I replied. Then you are not of the Brotherhood. So, like, dude made some kind of motion. It says it's grotesque, so I don't know what he was doing. And our narrator was like, what are you doing? And he's like, you don't understand? Then you are not of the Brotherhood. How? You are not of the Masons. Yes, yes, I said. Yes, yes. You, impossible. A Mason? A Mason, I replied. A sign, he said. A sign. Oh, look, there's the, no one harms me unpunished. See right there? We don't even have to look it up. It is this, I answered, producing from beneath the folds of my rollicare a trowel. You know, it's like a triangle, like a thing that you dig with out in the garden. You jest, he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces, but let us proceed to the Amontillado. Be it so, I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak and again offering him my arm. He leaned upon it heavily. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descending again arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeau rather to glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt there appeared another less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. 3 sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the fourth, the bones had been thrown down and lay promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior crypt or recess, in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to have been constructed for no especial use within itself, but formed merely the interval between 2 of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, and was backed by one of the circumscribing walls of solid granite. I will continue in just a minute.